So when we're talking about the American diet, even when it's really healthy, even when it's full of color and well-raised meat and grains and all of these things, we're still very deficient because our soil is deficient. So there's a problem in this country that even when you're eating a really great diet, you still don't get enough from food. So of course, nutrition is very, very important, but the supplements are equally, especially in trying to grow a tiny human.
Getting pregnant and giving birth are two of the most exciting things you can ever hope to experience in this life. The moment you think you could be pregnant, you're frantically searching for all the best information, which is why you're here today. I'm Stephanie King, and with my many years of experience as a professional childbirth educator, doula, and lover of all things pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, I'm here to make preparing for your birth enjoyable, empowering, and totally easy. Each week, I'll cover different topics, interview professionals, and get into the nitty-gritty birth stories from mamas just like you. And when you're ready for more, you can join me in the My Essential Birth course at myessentialbirth.com, where I take you step by step through exactly how to prepare your mind, body, spirit, and partner for a birth you love. So let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Reviewer of the week this week is Christina Troy. She says every expectant mother needs this podcast. I'm going to just stop there and totally agree with her. So if you are here and you are pregnant or you are working on getting pregnant, take a listen, stay with me. She says, as a first-time mom, I did so much research before we tried to conceive because I wanted to determine what kind of birth would be best for me, and I wanted to prepare as best I could for pregnancy. Coming across Stephanie's podcast was the biggest blessing. It was exactly what I needed to make an educated decision regarding what was best for me and my baby. I don't think anything can make me happier than that, so thank you. That's awesome. She says, after listening to her extensive knowledge on everything birth-related, I decided that a home birth was what I wanted. I love how Stephanie takes you through the whole process of birth all the way up to what to expect postpartum. Because of this podcast, I knew how to advocate for myself, how to select a midwife, how to prepare my mind and body for birth, how to stay healthy during pregnancy, ... I could go on and on. She discusses almost everything you could ever need to know about birth. Because of the confidence I gained through the information in this podcast, I was able to deliver my baby at home, even though she flipped last minute and was breech. That is amazing, and I feel like you're going to have to write in and tell me all about your birth story. She finishes with reminding myself that, quote, if they can do it, I can do it, got me through 30 hours of labor. I am so thankful and blessed that Stephanie has taken the time and energy to put out this podcast. I tell every expectant mother I know about it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christina. And I absolutely love that. So if you guys have heard anything about my story and why I do what I do today, it really came from this place of if I can do it, you can do it. And that had to do with previous birth experiences and all kinds of things that I felt like were up against me. And then I had an incredible birth. And that is why I'm here sharing these things with you today. So if that is what you're getting from it, perfect. I couldn't ask for anything better. Now, to dive into today's episode, I want to talk to you guys. Well, it's not even just me. I have an incredible guest. Her name is Bridgette. But we're going to talk about nutrition and supplements and just how the gut works and all kinds of fun stuff for you guys during pregnancy, birth, postpartum. But Bridgitte Mallinson is the founder and CEO of Gut Personal, a customized approach to supplements. With a team led by registered dietitians and gut health experts, Gut Personal empowers customers to eliminate gut issues for good through a personalized approach. After medicine and nutrition as a registered functional dietitian, After healing a lifelong struggle with her gut, Bridgette has spent a decade studying functional medicine and nutrition as a registered functional dietitian. Her mission is to improve the health and wealth of all women. Gut Personal is not only female-founded, but mainly female-funded, which I think is so awesome. Bridgette's expertise has been featured on Newsweek, Forbes Health, The Chris Harder Show, Mind Your Hormones, and many more, and now the Pregnancy and Birth Made Easy podcast. So with that, Bridgette, say hello to everybody. And I have to ask, this is where I would love to, say hello to everybody and tell us a little bit about you, whatever little babes you have, because we kind of touched on that just a second ago. And then I have an immediate question based off of your profile.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be here and serve these mamas. I have a 6.5-month-old Lily, Fun fact, I had a 64-hour labor and it didn't go how I expected it at all, but it was great. And I got a beautiful and very healthy baby girl at the end. Um, I live outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And yeah, I'm a functional medicine dietitian and really just like so passionate about women feeling amazing in their body and feeling really empowered and educated. So I think this is going to be a really fun conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. With that, I'm curious, and I know others will be as well. What is the difference between just a dietitian and you said a functional medicine dietitian?
Yes, exactly. So functional medicine really tries to get at the root cause of issues. So for example, when I was a registered dietitian, I was diagnosed with IBS, migraines, hypothyroidism, ADHD, all of these things. Like I had all these diagnoses. And I would go to doctors and they're like, yeah, your labs are normal, but here's another medication. And it didn't make sense to me. I think like our women intuition comes in where you're like, this doesn't make sense. Like I'm taking really great care of my body, but I have all these issues. And so I found functional medicine. And instead of saying you have all these diagnoses, it asks why. And we do a lot of testing, gut testing, hormone testing, vitamin testing to figure out how your body is basically running, which can be really empowering. And so functional medicine just tries to get at the root of the issue instead of band-aiding the issue.
Which I feel like you're in the right place to talk to women about this right now, because that's kind of what we talk about here. It's like we're so tired of hearing all the like blanket statements. It's getting to the like, how can we trust our intuition and what we already know about our bodies and then advocate for ourselves? And I feel like you're a piece of that, which I think is just awesome. And then you kind of mentioned all these like diagnoses and stuff. Is that where kind of like just reading your bio, I assume that's where this passion came from? What was it you learning about functional medicine? Did you heal yourself or like what was your process?
Yeah, I really did heal myself. I went back to school. So as a registered dietitian, I went to school for 7 years to become a registered dietitian and still didn't have the answers. And then when I found functional medicine, I went back to school for 3 more years and was like, okay, I have to heal my own body, but then I need to be the expert that other women need. And so my first big thing that I did that we learn in functional medicine is that the root of all health is your gut health. Truly everything. Hormones even are just responders to other things in our body. And when your gut health is off, so many things are off in your body. So I did a poop test and it basically told me so much was wrong with my gut. When I healed my gut 6 months later, I got off all the medication. And honestly, since then, which was 8 years ago, I felt really amazing. So it was really just me becoming the expert that I needed.
That's really neat. With the poop test, like what does that measure? What's tested when you do a
Oh
fecal
my
test?
gosh. Yeah, it's so many things. So a lot of women come to us too, and I just want to debunk this in the beginning, is like, and they've said, I've done a gut test with maybe my GI doctor. Well, they're testing one or two things. Our test is 5 pages of what does your good gut bacteria and microbiome look like? What bad bacteria do you have? What bad yeast do you have in the gut? How well are you breaking down and absorbing your food? How's your immune system? Do you have parasites? Do you have worms? Are you sensitive to gluten? It's looking at so many things to give us a full picture of, okay, this might be influencing your health in this way, and here's what we need to do to heal it.
So when you got your information back and you looked at your own information, how did you decide what to do moving forward? And what did you end up doing to heal it? And how long did it take?
Yeah, I mean, really, the deepest healing was 6 months, but I'd say the transformational lifelong healing was 2 years. I mean, I always say to people, and us women, we have so many gut issues. Literally, there's a stat 3 out of 4 women have gut issues or IBS. Those are interchangeable in my world, but um, it was really like 6 months of deep healing, 2 years of continually doing things. And a lot of that was supplements. I think, as a registered dietitian, I would love to come on here and preach that you can heal your gut through food, but you simply can't. And while bad nutrition is not supportive for healing, if you have good nutrition already, it's really important in both senses that getting on the right supplements. And that's really what the gut test gives us, is that roadmap of, okay, here's what's going on, here's the supplements to take. And then also with our clients, of course, we are working on nutrition and lifestyle. For me, I had H. pylori, candida, like these are all bad bacteria. I was really sensitive to gluten. I wasn't breaking down food well. So I added supplements in for that, and then, took out gluten. And it was really powerful and really helped me heal.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
With that, I feel like that's kind of the perfect segue into like personalizing prenatal nutrition and supplements. And I wanted to start that off because what you do is deal with supplementation, particularly with women in general. So I don't know, maybe just some background around the importance of safe supplementation, because there's a lot of great information everywhere. However, it's not always personalized. And so I've even fallen into this trap of thinking I've got these symptoms and I can go and find some answers for myself. But then even if I find the right herb or the right supplement, how do I know how much to take or whatever? And so at one point I was taking all this stuff and I'm like, I don't even know if it's doing anything. So I literally just stopped it all because I'm like, I need a baseline. But what, like that kind of thinking, like on your mind right now, what do you want to say to women when you're talking about safe supplementation? Because I do think it's really important.
Yeah. One, I think the first thing that's most important when we're thinking safe supplementation is finding safe companies. I think that's first and foremost. You cannot just say, I can't come on here and say, get a probiotic or get a prenatal or get a magnesium or vitamin D or fish oil off the shelves of CVS. That is a recipe for disaster, because a lot of supplement companies aren't testing for quality. And so we're talking about safety. Quality is so important. We have a prenatal that I had to send back to our manufacturer at one point when we were creating it because it had too much lead. And most supplement companies would find that out and they're like, oh, this is fine. Even though the ingredient we were using was quality, which was seaweed. Seaweed naturally has more lead. Just a fun fact. I guess it's not that fun, but and I was like, okay, we have to use a different source and we need to decrease the amount of that. And so that's not something that most people are thinking about when they're choosing their supplements. So one, a trusted company. Second, you need to be educated enough. And this is where finding a practitioner to help you personalize for yourself what you need. But there can be some things, like, for example, if you're taking a prenatal and then maybe you're taking, we have this one product, it's called the Gut Soother. It has a lot of vitamin A in it. A prenatal might also have a lot of vitamin A in it. So you need to make sure vitamin A you don't just pee out. So it can become toxic in the body if you're taking too much. Or vitamin D. Maybe your protein powder has vitamin D and your prenatal has vitamin D, and then you're taking the vitamin D. You want to make sure you're not taking too much of things. That's another important part with supplement safety. Yeah, those would be the two most important things.
Yeah. And I think of, especially when we get pregnant, it's like, for example, we know during pregnancy, it's like so many moms end up needing iron, right? And we know we need certain things such as folic acid or folate during pregnancy. Like we know that there's things that come up specific to pregnancy and obviously prenatally, like pre-pregnancy and also postpartum. But speaking of like pregnancy in general, I feel like our babies all of a sudden need a lot. And so that's where we start noticing that we've got some deficiencies, or our bodies are going through these big hormonal changes and stuff. And all of this stuff kind of comes to light. So what is it about being pregnant that kind of brings that stuff to light? And what do you recommend for moms? Specifically knowing that like 99% of moms are going to be offered a prenatal vitamin from their provider that probably is not the best thing for them.
Oh, golly. I mean... Okay, where do we start? Do we have 2 hours?
Yeah,
no,
sorry. I know. I was like, loaded question.
This is
sorry.
So good. No, oh my God, not at all. Okay, so I'm going to start from my own story, which is being a functional medicine provider. I was educated in prenatal supplements, but I didn't realize how bad the market was until I was pregnant. And I was taking there's another incredible prenatal on the market, but I still found things that I could do better. And that's, as a business owner, why I exist. I look at something and say, I can do it better and I need to bring this to women, right? That's why my company exists. And so that's how I started creating this prenatal. But while I was pregnant, I ran out of the prenatal. And let me just tell you, if you're on a great prenatal and you run out, you should be able to notice a difference in your energy. Like, your energy is going to go down and maybe your hair starts thinning. So I was like, oh my God, I ran out of my prenatal. I'll go to Whole Foods. At least Whole Foods is better than CVS, right? I started to look at the prenatals that were available to women at a high quality, grocery store. Half of them had competing nutrients, for example, iron and calcium. You cannot take iron and calcium together. Calcium competes with iron absorption and blocks it in the body. Half of them had these two things, which just tell me that they're just marketing a prenatal to market a prenatal. They don't actually care about the health of women. And then the other ones weren't even doing third-party testing to make sure there are no heavy metals. And then another thing was half of them had folic acid. Most of us can't use and absorb folic acid. It really needs to be a form of folate. And so it was like this discovery with my own story made me so passionate about creating what's not being represented on the market for women right now, which is a high quality prenatal. And especially if it comes in a prescription form, it's not the right forms of nutrients. So that is like kind of the worst of the worst. Not sure if I answered your question yet, but that's kind of, my story in creating the prenatal and like why it needs to exist and kind of what to look out for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. I know that within the birth course, if you guys are listening and you're in there, or I'm sure I've talked about it on the podcast before, but taking a once daily, that alone should be like a pause. Like, how could you get everything that you possibly need into one vitamin at the beginning or end of the day and call it good? And then what you had talked about, there's competing things in there. The other thing is the third-party testing. And there are all kinds of articles coming out right now about the lack of third-party testing. And when these vitamins or supplements or other things are tested by a third party, they don't have like anything in them, or they don't even have what they say is on the label in them. And so that kind of thing makes me extremely nervous as a consumer. And so I do think being with a reputable company that has proof of third-party testing or whatever you need that you're looking for, clean ingredients, whatever, they have proof of it is a huge thing. We're definitely in like a consumer era. And I mean, it's great because there are so many options, but then as the consumer, it's a little scary because there's so many options. So
Yeah.
it can just be a little
and
tricky.
with, with the day of, with social media too and influencer marketing, I think it can be really good, but it's also like the companies that have the most money. There is a very popular prenatal on the market right now that's being touted as a high quality prenatal, and it has barely anything in it. And it really makes me frustrated because, they are using influencer marketing. They have a lot of money to be deploying for marketing. And at the end of the day, it is such a terrible prenatal. It really is infuriating.
So with that, like, let's take a deep dive into vitamins and minerals that are in prenatals. Like, what should there be? What are the most important ones for moms to look for or to be taking?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the most important, I literally just brought mine downstairs because I needed to take it with lunch. So I usually have it right here and I'm like, oh shoot. So the most important to take, choline, is really important for baby's brain development. It needs to have at least 200 milligrams of choline. Your B vitamins, a whole spectrum of B vitamins, not just 1, 2, or 3. It needs to have methylfolate, needs to have methylcobalamin. These are methylated B vitamins, which mean that you'll be able to use them in your body for energy and also baby's development. There needs to be your fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, K. Those are really important for baby's bone health and development and immune health. Vitamin C, zinc. Those are the main things that really need to be in a prenatal multi. And then what we did is we went a step further. I was asking myself, there are a lot of women who are struggling with infertility now. What are the main root causes of why they're struggling with infertility or even energy postpartum? The biggest thing is blood sugar balance. So what I added was chromium. So a lot of prenatals, I think there's only maybe one other one on the market that has chromium, and then inositol. And then we also added a probiotic. We're the only one on the market with a probiotic that specifically supports the gut microbiome and good bacteria in the gut. Because when we have a vaginal birth, we give all of that good vaginal gut microbiome to the baby. So yeah, those are the big things to focus on. I think, when we're looking at prenatals, one thing that's a red flag to me is if it has like 10 or less ingredients. So you don't necessarily need to remember all of those, but even like you said, a 1 a day, a 2 a day, even a 3 a day prenatal multi is not enough. Ours is 6 a day, which is less than some other high quality ones on the market, but you really need a full spectrum multivitamin. Yeah.
How about the idea, and you had mentioned this at the beginning, but I know moms are going to ask, and I know like supplements are supposed to be just that, a supplement. We should really be like, we need to focus on our diet, our health, our nutrition, exercise, that kind of stuff. All of that plays a piece. What's your recommendation for moms, obviously utilizing these supplements, that they should be doing on the side as well as using the supplements?
Yeah. So in the past actually in the last decade, I've shifted my belief about supplements to being supplemental to essential, because I've done actual vitamin testing on so many women, thousands of women, and only one woman was not deficient in a specific magnesium. And magnesium is very important for pregnancy too. And so when we're talking about the American diet, even when it's really healthy, even when it's full of color and well-raised meat and grains and all of these things, we're still very deficient because our soil is deficient. So there's a problem in this country that even when you're eating a really great diet, you still don't get enough from food. So of course, nutrition is very, very important, but the supplements are equally, truly, and especially in trying to grow a tiny human. Another thing that's really important is stress and stress reduction and how our body responds to stress. So working on your nervous system, whether it's a 5-minute meditation, or I love breath work. I did less of it when I was pregnant. But just a way that really brings you into your body and makes you feel more calm. Because those stress hormones, whether you're pregnant or you have a little babe or you're trying to get pregnant, those are really important for your health, but then your baby's health too. So stress reduction is very, very important.
Okay, with that, I'm going to make sure that we link. I have 2 podcast episodes that are actually guided meditations for you guys. So I'm going to link those just right below so that you can go right along with what Bridgette is saying. And as you're taking your supplements, you can have a little quick meditation. I love that idea behind that. Okay, you mentioned magnesium. Let's talk about magnesium. Why is it so important during pregnancy?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So the 2 most common things that pregnant women struggle with are insomnia and constipation, right? And magnesium deficiency is at the root of both of those. So it really supports bowel movements. It supports reducing your stress response and sleeping better. So it is just so incredible for those 2 things. But it's also involved in, baby's development. It's involved in 300 processes in the body, but those are the 2 most important for pregnant women. Yeah, it's like my favorite supplement of all time. If everyone's listening to this and they're like, I don't want to take a lot of supplements, magnesium in a prenatal. But magnesium is my favorite supplement of all time because people notice a difference very quickly, and many of us are deficient. most.
Well, yes. And depending on who you speak with, like women are getting bad information in the way of like, here's a prescription instead of going to that root cause and trying to figure out, well, why is it that way in the first place? We always hear this, it's like this blanket statement of, well, it's pregnancy. You're just pregnant. That's third trimester pains, you know? And some of that is, there is an amount of truth to that. You are growing a baby, you have extra weight, you're more tired. There are things that go along with pregnancy that's just part of it. But throwing prescriptions at women, or it's almost like a way to not, like you don't feel validated, you don't feel heard because it's like, oh, just here you go. And you're out the door instead of trying to ask about your life and what you are eating, what kind of exercise you have going on, how you're sleeping, what supplements you're taking. So I do think it's worth getting, if possible, with a registered dietitian or a great company like this to be able to discuss some of those things. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I love that so much. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Can we talk Group B strep for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me about Group B strep. I want to hear like probiotics, Group B strep. What do you see? What's the information out there for those?
Yes. Okay. So Group B strep is something that can overgrow when the immune system in the gut and vaginal microbiome is off. And so it's really important that, this is something that I'm really passionate about, that we are advocating for, because some women are only tested at the beginning of pregnancy. I actually just had a girlfriend who was only tested at the end of her pregnancy, which I thought was a little wild. And if it's positive, you have to have antibiotics during labor, which is really rough on your gut microbiome. It's really not supportive to babies, microbiome, because that's really important in their development. The first 2 years of the baby's life are the most important for developing their microbiome, which sets them up for really great health or not so great health as they, get older. And so there are two well-researched strains of probiotics that are the only two that are found to support reducing Group B strep. And what I recommend is that, so we have a probiotic, it's called the Women's Probiotic. It has those two strains. And I recommend women start taking it when they're trying to conceive. If you are positive at the beginning of your pregnancy, start taking it 1 to 2 times a day, and then ask to get retested. This is where advocating for yourself is really powerful. I've had so many clients and so many women being like, my doctor won't retest me. I'm sorry, it's your body. Like you can fight that. You can say, yes, I'd like to be retested because I've been taking this probiotic shown to decrease Group B strep. And hopefully it's not there. The research shows that in about 70% of women, it completely gets rid of it, which is amazing.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
When we're thinking of that for moms who want to prevent it before they get tested, how early would you take a probiotic?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. It's only going to support everything. You could start taking it 6 months ahead of time.
That's awesome. Okay, I wanted to ask you about postpartum because we were talking about all this pregnancy, and it's so easy to get excited about pregnancy and labor and birth and then completely forget about ourselves postpartum. So what do you recommend for moms once they have that baby, they're breastfeeding or not, and recovering postpartum?
Gosh, you have got to stay on your supplements, girlfriend. I have so many, like literally my girlfriend, I will say this till I'm blue in the face. You have to be taking your prenatal at least 6 months, but to a year. Your body is basically recovering. And what a prenatal is for postpartum, it's like building blocks to your hormones. Like there are so many women that struggle with hair loss postpartum. And some of that is normal, but some of that is nutrient deficiencies, specifically of B vitamins, or low energy, specifically, same thing. So continue the full dose of your prenatal. That's a way you can give back to your body. Continue your fish oil. If you're breastfeeding, you are literally giving your baby like DHA to support their brain as they're, aging. please just continue taking all of your supplements. Drink a ton of water. That's my other thing that's so important. Buy a bougie water bottle that you love drinking out of, and yeah, water is the other thing. And what was really helpful for me is I have a 6.5-month-old, and there's not been a day I haven't taken a bath or a shower. So that seems like very silly recommendation, but I was reflecting on it and reflecting on what are small things that have made me feel really good postpartum. And that was honestly one really great thing was making sure I take a bath or a shower every day. That makes me feel really good postpartum. So I don't know.
I'm with you on that. I guess. Yes. No, I've talked about it, but like, it's my sacred place, the shower. Like as a mom, yes. That is my sacred place, provided I can keep kids far enough away from me, or quiet and a little bouncer next to me. That is fine too. But oh, how I love the shower. So I'm totally with you on that one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bridgitte. This has been excellent. I think it's given moms a lot to think about, a lot of good information in the way of what vitamins and minerals are important, why supplements matter, where they can find a good, clean option, looking for that third-party testing and all that important stuff. And I love that we talked about Group B as well, because that is a common thing that comes up. I do think it's interesting that you're saying there are studies that show that this particular whatever strain and whatever you're using for the probiotic, 70% is huge for women being retested. And if you have that information, if you have that study, I will absolutely put it in the show notes because I think that is just killer. So yeah, thank you. And for those who are listening, if you would, please let them know where they can find you and your information and information about those prenatals.
Yeah. So you can find our prenatals on gutpersonal.com. We also, like I said, have your magnesium, your fish oil, your vitamin D. So incredible, all on our website. And we have a discount code for your community. So make sure to check the show notes. And then on Instagram is where we're most active and where we have the most information at gut.personal. And then I'm Bridgette Malley on Instagram. If you want to come check out my really cute 6-month-old daughter or my 2 golden retrievers or talk about business, mamahood, life, come hang out with me there.
I love it. And yes, for those who are listening, it's gutpersonal.com/MEB, like my essential birth, or you can just use code MEB at checkout. But I will put all of that in the show notes. You don't have to worry about remembering anything, including all of her websites and information. So with that, thank you so much, Bridgitte, for being here.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is amazing.
If you loved what you heard today, the very best way to support this podcast and help other moms to find it is to leave a quick review. I read one at the beginning of the episodes, and I would love for yours to be next. And if you're ready for even more pregnancy, birth, and postpartum goodness, come join me in the My Essential Birth course at myessentialbirth.com, where I will hold your hand and walk you through pregnancy and birth step by step so you're totally prepared for a birth you'll love. See you next week.